Hey everyone, welcome to Sport Top, a show that looks at two independent entities in music and sports and examines how they've influenced each other in so many different ways over the years. I'm your host, William McLaughlin, aka The Kid, and without further ado, let's get this bad boy rolling.
Shut up and sit down.
So as we all know, music and sports are two very different things, but they have a great way of evoking so many emotions and bringing up memories for people in a number of different ways, whether it was good, bad, or just wild in any which way possible, especially with sports. You look at so many moments in history, in sports history, where you just think like, wow, that actually happened. Go back to this year, how a backup quarterback in the NFL and Nick Foles was part of an underdog Philadelphia Eagles team that led them to a Super Bowl victory over a very great team in the New England Patriots. Only other losses they've had in the Super Bowl were to my New York Giants. Did it twice. But that's just one of those things where you look back and that year was just so memorable, even if it was good or bad. I mean, my Giants went 3-13 that year, but that's neither here nor there. And you just realize how much sports plays a role in people's lives, because there are a number of different times where I can think of, not only in football, but in basketball or just in a number of other sports that I follow, where something great has happened. Like the Yankees, when I was younger, so many times I'd see them hit a walk-off home run to defeat the Red Sox in Boston, those moments like that. So those things that are what stick out. And for every fan, it's going to be different. Obviously, people have different walks of life, and certain moments in sports history, whether it's with their favorite team or in general, have memories when it comes to certain specific moments in the history that is sports altogether, whether it be high school, collegiate, rec league, professional, you name it. There's always a time where you can go back and think on one game or one moment that just sticks out. Now, if you're a sports fan or a music fan and you don't really connect to sports, music has that same influence as well. I can remember as a kid when my dad gave me this little itty-bitty cassette. And at the time, I didn't even know how it worked. It took a day or two to learn it. But when I finally was able to start listening to music, there was this band on there called AC/DC, a classic hair metal band that was just now considered one of the greatest rock bands of all time. And I can remember listening to Back in Black and just thinking about how excited I was hearing that guitar riff and Brian Johnson just coming out with that high-pitched voice, wailing on the music. It's just one of those bands that really got me into classic rock and alternative and punk going forward, to where nowadays I listen to bands like A Day to Remember, Paramore, For All Those Sleeping. It's just, it all started from that one day when my dad handed me that cassette. And, you know, my twin brother and a number of my friends can talk about their moments when they've had that come their way. But music itself is great because it can evoke so many different emotions at so many different times, just like sports can. But I feel like it's so more intimate than that because it hits a broader spectrum in general days of life. And, you know, you can have days where you're not feeling well and you can go to a Spotify or an iTunes playlist and pull up something that, you know, fits the mood or a genre that you're wanting to listen to. And it's great because it's a great way to release those emotions, or at least to, you know, think upon them and build upon them and really just see where your life is at. Or if there's a day where you're just feeling good and, you know, you're feeling yourself and you're having a great day, you want to hear some music, you know, that just keeps you in that hyped mood or keeps you upbeat all day. And that's what's great about it, is that you can find so many different genres, and it's different for everyone. I know when I'm in a good mood and I'm having a great day, nothing makes my day better other than listening to some old school Eminem, or even some Wu-Tang Clan, NWA, and, you know, a little bit of throwback with some Metallica, Def Leppard, Kiss. There's a lot of different bands that I could go to, and I could ramble on for days, hours on end about all the different artists that I like and what really, you know, makes a difference when it comes to this whole idea of like sports, music, and how they intertwine yet are so independent in so many different ways. And it's great. And hopefully that's what I'm going to try to do with this podcast, is that I can look at different aspects and just kind of give you, the viewers and listeners, a chance to really see and understand like how music and sports have influenced each other over the years. Now, a number of you listening are probably thinking like, okay, yeah, I get an idea of where you're going with this, or you probably have some moments in your mind that stick out. And that's a whole, again, the idea of what this podcast is. So hopefully we can get to that point to where we're creating some banter, or you guys and girls are giving me some examples and just throwing out ideas. But this first episode, now that I've gotten through my rambling intro, is going to focus on two of the oldest forms of music and sports, and that's going to be basketball and rap/hip-hop. Now, this episode, Hoops and Hip-Hop, now that you've seen the title and get it, is really going to focus on how you look at two different forms of artistry. They're almost in sync of being the same. If you look at the way the game of basketball is played, when it's fast, quick, without hesitation, there's no slowdown, or even when it is a slowdown, but it's a smooth set offense, you really think about all of that in-sync play, that practice it takes for it to get to that point to where it's so good, and you just look at it and it's pure poetry. And the same can be said for rap and hip-hop. I mean, rap is literally an acronym for rhythm and poetry. And when you listen to some of the old school music and some of the new school music now, where these artists, when they start to just put down the lyrics on paper, when they attack the pad with that pen, and you hear it come to life in the music videos, in the songs, and you can almost just relate to it. You feel like you're there. You feel like you've lived this life. That's that connection, that smooth flow, and just that greatness from start to finish. That's almost the exact same way basketball is, in my opinion. Some of you may think differently. Some of you may agree with me. But, hey, we're all different. We're all human. We're all going to have our different opinions on life. It's cool. But when I look at hoops and hip-hop, I always think about how great these two entities work together when it comes to music and sports. Because nowadays, with social media and how people can connect all across the country, the world, with their favorite athletes or with other fans, whether it's through music or sports, it's great because you really think about how some of the greatest relationships people can build may come from just one simple thing, like the same love for one team, or the same love for a genre or a rap artist or a rock artist or just music in general. That's what makes these two entities so great, is that when you really take a step back, you can feel the love, you can feel the connection that is there when you look at these two entities. And they're honestly two of the few things that really bring people together in this world. And it's awesome. It's one of the greatest things I love in this lifetime, is that whenever I can listen to music, or even just turn on the game and watch one of my favorite teams play, or just watch sports in general. Because if you're not a sports fan or a music fan, I don't get how you get through life. It must be tough. But, keep on that good fight. Now, looking at some more specific examples, again, rambling once more as I usually do, or as my friends always tell me, music and sports with the genre of hip-hop and basketball. It's become a bigger and bigger thing these last 5 years, and that's just most recently. For this year example, when you look at the NBA, when the season was starting, Bleacher Report, which is a big social media atmosphere that covers pop culture and sports all together, and they do it so well. And they put out some of the funniest content. Those of you that follow Bleacher Report can probably relate to some of the things they do. They're just all around in pop culture and in these bigger iconic moments that you're starting to see in social media. At the beginning of the year for the NBA, Bleacher Report decided to do this really awesome segment called Rep Your Hometown. Now, if you get a chance, you got to look it up. Basically, what Bleacher Report did is they reached out to all these different rappers: Meek Mill, Chance the Rapper, not DeMar DeRozan, basketball player for the Raptors, Drake, Kendrick Lamar. They had all these rappers, and what they did was they did a sweet segment about how each of these rappers from their hometown area decided to rep their teams. So we look at Toronto Raptors, DeMar DeRozan, a kid who grew up in Compton, but again, obviously plays for Toronto. They had Drake repping a jersey for them at the beginning of the year. Now, granted, Drake is a jersey hopper. It's so bad, but for the sake of this argument and this segment, that was something cool they had him do. Now, you also look at Meek Mill. By the way, they should free him. He is wearing a Philadelphia jersey at the beginning of the year, and his thing is like, trust the process, just like Joel Embiid says. They look at Chance the Rapper, who has become one of the greatest artists of our generation at this moment, and the dude's done it as an independent label, but he wore a Chicago Bulls jersey, repping Chi-Town like that, the Windy City Love. It was great. And then you also look at Kendrick Lamar. Compton's own Kendrick Lamar, who is a Grammy Award-winning artist, grew up in the streets like DeMar DeRozan and really made a name for himself in music. And he was repping the LA Lakers. Showtime, baby. One of my favorite teams growing up just because my dad watched the Lakers a lot. My twin brother is a huge Lakers fan, and I know a number of my friends who hopefully listen to this that are big-time Laker fans. But that's how awesome it was that a rapper like Kendrick Lamar, like Drake, like Meek Mill, like Chance the Rapper, all these guys who decided to rep where they're from in their jerseys, and it got a great following from fans. I remember reading a ton of comments when they first posted that about fans who just loved the music in general and were like, oh man, I'm going to follow this team simply because it was the rapper. And on top of that, it's sports, People are always going to be watching sports, and the NBA, hands down, and arguably is probably the most popular sport in the United States right now, right there with football, and especially with the way they reach out and brand with social media. They have really become one of the biggest challengers of traditional sports media and really looking at how fans view the game, because it's more than just a game. So for a lot of people, it's a connection. It's a way of life. It's a way of just, having an outlet outside of their daily realities. And for that single moment, even for just a minute, if it's from this article or from a game or from a song, they get to live vicariously through these athletes, through these artists. And it's awesome. It is so much fun to see it. As a fan, who's someone who loves music, he considers himself a music buff with the old school stuff and has always been a sports junkie, it's really cool to see how they really are able to intertwine the two. And that's just one example of the jerseys and rappers and hip-hop artists representing them. There's also the connection when you look at how rap artists constantly reference these athletes in music videos, and it's really cool. Formerly, the biggest name is Jay-Z. If you ever get a chance, Complex News, I believe, did a great article a year ago about how when they referenced back and looked at Jay-Z's songs, just Jay-Z alone, the man has referenced over 80-plus professional athletes. Now, most of them professional basketball or professional basketball teams, which is great because he talks about these athletes like LeBron James, Dwayne Wade. He also brings up Allen Iverson, like the dude was the answer. Like when he referenced in one of his songs about how AI steps over Tyronn Lue, like the dirtiest move, one of the dirtiest moves in NBA history, but still a great shot, and Lue's gonna have to live with that forever. But Jay-Z, and on top of that, not only has he referenced athletes in a ton of his songs, but he's also in the athletics business as a representative for these athletes. He's got his own sports agents company where he's able to hire on these agents to represent these young athletes, and it's called Rock Nation. And he's had people like the names of Victor Cruz, LeBron James has been in reference to it a number of times, along with that, like up-and-coming draft prospect Saquon Barkley out of Penn State, who more than likely is going to be drafted as the first running back and is more than likely a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. He signed with Rock Nation, and it's great because not only is Jay-Z, again, he's made a huge difference in the music game. When it comes to rap and hip-hop, he will go down as an icon. But it's also awesome to see how he's able to reach out and branch and find a way to connect his name and his brand from music and be an influence in sports. That's just, again, couple of examples right off the bat. But right now, I'm going to show you a more specific example of how hoops and hip-hop are two of almost pretty much the same things, just in different setups. Like, they're two peas in the same pod, whether people want to accept it or not. Again, this is all opinion-based, but what I'm about to show you, I think, will be a good demonstration of how well these two connect. So, for those of you that are Laker fans or NBA fans in general, Kobe Bryant was that transitional player in the NBA between when Michael Jordan was leaving to now when you saw all these guys like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, all of those athletes. What's great is he was that generational shift. He was our generation's Michael Jordan for like the millennials and, for some of the Generation X for a little bit. But, he was, again, like I said, that transitional player from the 90s of Jordan into now the 2000s and late 2010 era of what you see now of these professional athletes. Guy played all of his seasons with the Lakers. He is a 5-time NBA champion, Finals MVP a number of times, is a NBA MVP for the regular season, and hands down is one of the top 10 greatest players, arguably top 5 greatest players of all time. And when he finally retired from the game of basketball, a bit of the world died that day in the professional basketball ranks and in basketball in general, because it was the Black Mamba. The man was leaving. But before his final game, the NBA decided to do a tribute for him, and none other than rapper Kendrick Lamar, Compton's own Kendrick Lamar, decided to help with the tribute. And what they do is they decided to pull his song Untitled Number 7 from his Untitled album, which a lot of people self-named Levitate, and ultimately is what it's called. They used that, and they were able to create a Fade to Black video tribute for Kobe Bryant. And those of you listening and watching have probably seen this video, and man, it is just, I get chills to this day every time I watch it, because it's Kobe Bryant, and it's also Kendrick Lamar, who's just, again, arguably one of the best rappers of this generation, and it could go down as one of the greatest rappers of all time with the way he hits beats. And again, like I already repped Kobe's accolades. We already know who the Black Mamba is, but I'm going to play a small segment of this 3-minute clip. If you get a chance, watch the full thing. It is so awesome, and you really get an appreciation for music and sports, because you're watching Kobe Bryant getting tributed by Kendrick Lamar. So watch this really quick, enjoy, and again, after the fact, if you can, watch the whole video. It is so freaking good.
What can I say? I mean, really, what can we say? Day by day, season by season, 20 to be exact. Growing up watching them paint murals, using this building as his first studio, using LA as his canvas, restoring crowns back to where they belong, under royal banners, purple and gold, the color of royalty. Our one man, LA King. After Kobe, Kobe, never meaningless, could never mean less. That's what he means at this moment. All season has been his goodbye. Him to us to him, to the whole world. We don't want problems, we don't want trick, we don't want dollars, levitate.
All right, so hopefully that video right there gives you all kind of a good sense of like what kind of artist and what kind of athlete Kobe Bryant was, and who Kendrick Lamar is, and how well hoops and hip-hop go hand in hand. Now, there are a number of different examples I could go on and on about that date back as far as the 80s. And it could probably even step outside of the realm of basketball. I mean, just for a quick example, you look at a couple of guys from Compton that decided to wear out all black gear and throw up 3 letters of NWA for their rap name, and they'd have Raider gear. And they redefined what it meant to be a Raider fan, and they really opened up what it meant to be a football fan in the inner city streets of LA. So, I mean, that's just a quick example. I can't go too far into detail because then I'm just going to ramble like I already am. But when you look at other examples of music, specifically hip-hop, influencing influencing basketball and society and culture, and how it's become more of a pop culture thing in connecting the two. Because, again, by themselves, they're two solid entities. They're great. Nothing can top them. And it's really hard to compete with both, just music and sports in general. But when you look, again, specifically at basketball and hip-hop, you really start to see that connection of how their flow works together. And another example that I'm about to show you, was actually 2 examples, is from the NBA 2K18 trailers that were released for the most recent NBA 2K game. Again, NBA 2K18. But the video itself, they were so great. Like, I don't even play NBA 2K. I watch my friends do it all the time during my undergrad college days, and they would just get after it. They'd be making all these crazy trades, and I would just sit there like, all right, whatever. But you look at these trailers, and they're really awesome. And the one they put out for this year's NBA 2K, I saw the trailers, and I'm going to show you just quick samples of both and let you listen to quick samples of both. But when I saw the trailers, I was like, I don't even play this game, and I want to buy it simply because of the fact of the music. And they use very, very good music. And then this first one I'm about to show you was called the Get Shook trailer. It was the first video they put out, or trailer they put out for the 2K release, and they decided to use Shook Ones Part 2 by Mobb Deep, an old school rap group from the late 80s and into the early 90s. And this trailer had me so hyped. So I'm going to show you a quick segment of it. If you can, I'll have the links up. Go watch them. They're so awesome. They did a great job. But here's the first one of the Get Shook trailer, just a quick segment of it for the NBA 2K18 video game trailer.
I got you stuck off the realness. We be the infamous, you heard of us. Official Queensbridge. The mob comes equipped for warfare. Beware of my crime family who got for all those who wanna profile and pose. You all alone in these streets, cousin. Every man for theyself in his land. We be and keep them shook crews running like they supposed to. They come around, but they never come close to. Your simple words just don't move me. You're minor, we major. You're all up in the game and don't deserve to be a player. Don't make me have to call your name out. Your crew is featherweight. To make you levitate, I'm only 19, but my mind is older. When the things get for real, my warm heart turns cold. Enough to cease, another story gets told. It ain't nothing really. Hey yo, so I can get my mind off these. While they still alive, I don't know, go figure. Meanwhile, back in Queens, the realness and foundation. If I die, I couldn't choose a better location. We're getting closer to in a tight situation now.
All right, so there's just that quick example of that, which is, again, such a good one because, oh my gosh, I saw that and I was just like, I was watching the video and, like, again, I like video games. Well, it was the first time mentioning this, but I like video games. I don't play sports video games a whole lot. I watch a ton of sports, but I don't play them because I know for a fact that, like, if someone walks up to me like, dude, I'm going to ring up like 30 on you in Madden, I'm like, you probably are. Not even going to argue with you because I just don't play them anymore. But again, I still do watch a lot of sports, and I love sports in general, and music, especially old school rap and hip hop, is one of my favorite genres of all time. But that video, when I first watched the trailer, I was like, immediately it clicked. I'm like, that's Get Shook. That's Shook Ones by Mobb Deep. Like, that's a classic. And the way they did it, and that was a tough song to, like, have to edit because there are some, explicit parts in there. But the way NBA 2K did the connections and the flow in it for the gameplay, it was just beautiful. Oh my gosh. Like I said, I don't even play video games that much anymore. I don't even play 2K. And I was about ready to go drop $60 the next day and be like, yeah, I'll get the game. Like, I'll never learn it, and it'll probably just sit there and collect dust. But the music alone was such a big influence. That's how, like, awesome it was for me and how awesome, like, great it was to listen to. And funny thing is, if you watch the video, the full one, it's when Kyrie Irving is still with the Cavs and Isaiah Thomas is still with the Celtics. And the next one that they decided to put out a couple weeks after, and this is after, Kyrie and Isaiah get flipped on teams, but the next one they put out is called Momentous. And the song they use is from a more recent song. It's called Babylon. I can't remember the artist's name, but again, check out the link for the video itself. Watch the full one, but I'm going to show you a quick segment.
Envious, everyone acting so frivolous. Jealousy, I can read it with telepathy. You making me sick, you making me sick. I might run up, and click. It is an ultimate marathon from the land, which is the city of Babylon. Dressing my hands, don't confuse me for sending my one of a kind. I just go like a Digimon when I be farming. Not many books, many revolvers, no problem solving. Illegal tendencies, infinite 70s, illustrate misery, living no infamy, infamous Lord. If you come back from the dead, you will go back to the morgue. I hunt you like Sun Tzu, so better be humble. Don't bet me, I'm Wesley in the art of war. So, sinning them will be flying. Truth, and in them I will be lying. Raw, ain't no Hakuna Matata, cause you shouldn't fuck with a lion. Damn!
flow and how it went with the gameplay trailer, well, again, it sold me. And as someone who doesn't, again, like I said, I don't play video games a whole lot, the marketing effort and the fact that they were able to connect a genre of music that they knew would work for this video game and for this style of sport was perfect. You could not have scripted that or designed that any better. And if you look at it, it was just hands down alone, even if you don't play video games and you just like watching sports or you like rap and hip-hop music, being a fan of either one of those and seeing those two connected like that, it was so beautiful. I mean, whoever was on that marketing team, whoever's on that design team, thank that brave soul that walked in and was just like, hey, we should totally use Shook Ones by Mobb Deep. It would totally work for this and kill it all. And it did. Oh my gosh, it was so good. But yeah, that's just another example of how hip-hop and sports, hoops and hip-hop, they are two different things. But if you really look at it, when you come down to the general synopsis, the general setup of it, they are pretty much two peas in the same pod, bred from that same garden. And when it's done right, when it's historic, when it's memorable, hoops and hip-hop go so hand in hand that you really see a deeper and better appreciation for music, for basketball, and specifically for hip-hop, and just how it's influenced society and culture altogether. And going forward, they're still going to stay hand in hand together. Like Kendrick Lamar as a rapper, and I know I'm referencing him a lot, but he's honestly probably the biggest name in rap right now. But he did the first halftime performance for the college football playoffs. And I know this isn't basketball, but this is just another example, a quick one of how rap music and like pop culture in general is starting to play a bigger and bigger influence in sports. A couple episodes down the road, I'm going to talk about how the halftime for the Super Bowl became one of the biggest things in the country, and that one's going to be a fun one, but we're going to have to wait on that. But altogether, you look at the review of this, basketball and hip-hop are two great entities. They work so well together, and to review, you look at specifically for artists, like when Bleacher Report did the hometown representation. Again, I'll link that article as well. Go back and check it out. Just look at some of the photos. I don't even think I did justice referencing all the artists that they actually had in that setup, but it was really cool. It was one of those things where you just really got a deeper appreciation for music and for sports because of the fact that these artists were representing where they were from. They were proud of where they were from and the teams they got to grow up watching as they were coming up, which is pretty cool. On top of that, you reference again Jay-Z, who's one of the greatest rap artists of all time, and he's constantly referenced athletes. I will also link back to that article, how he goes, you look at the research, and he's referenced over 80-plus athletes, and that's just not even basketball. Like, that's athletes in general, and how well he's done it. And it's so cool because he's garnered that kind of respect where even athletes, he's a fan of these athletes, but in turn, those athletes are a fan of him because when you get referenced by Jay-Z, like, that's pretty cool. If, like, Jay-Z said Will McLaughlin in a song, like, that's not even a good name to use when you're trying to come up with a rhyme and make sure it sounds poetic. Like, but if he name dropped me, like, I'm not going to argue, even if he's talking smack. I'm like, hey, Jay-Z referenced me. I'm cool with it. But that's the kind of respect he gets from athletes and the kind of respect he shows towards these athletes because, when someone's got game, you're going to talk about it. And when an artist has flow, you're going to talk about it. You're going to listen to that music. You're going to want to hear more and more of it, and you're going to want to hope that he or she continues to rap and sing and do their thing like that to where they hopefully continue to put out great hits. And again, with basketball players, and athletes in general, you want to see them perform at the highest level. You want to see your favorite players succeed. You want to see your favorite teams win. And you want to see them continually do that over a long period of time. So, in general, that's what the first episode was about. I'll hit on this a little bit more going forward from time to time. But I want to give a shout out to all of you that watched and listened. If you get a chance, show me some love on social media. You can follow me on Twitter at sports_hop1. Also got to give a shout out to my boy Chris Smith, one of the true originators of Sports Hop and a man who helped me run with this idea and really let me expand it a bit more. But again, the OG creator of this, Chris Smith, good friend of mine out of Pasadena, California. He's a baller. You ever get a chance, go ahead and follow both of us on Twitter. My handle is Will_MCL11. It's a very complicated one, but it's your boy C. Smith. There's an underscore in there somewhere. I'll throw that in the link as well, but give him some love. The guy was one of the original creators of Sports Hop, and I thank him a lot for, helping me expand it and, just getting something to run with so that we could create it to what it is into today. But again, that is Sports Hop, this first episode that really looks at two independent entities in music and sports and really just examines how they've influenced each other over the years in a number of different ways and how they became like the best of friends and at times the worst of enemies throughout history. So again, I appreciate all of you for watching and listening. Be sure to check out the links to the videos and the articles in the bio. But till next time, I'm your host, William McLaughlin, a.k.a. The Kid. Again, show me some love on social media, Twitter, at sports_hop1. Till next time, goons, peace out.